Hello, this is a demo of the Screen Scraper tool, and to give you a feel for what this actually does, I'd like to go through a couple of different points, being what, why, where, when, and how would you use such a tool. Starting out with what. This is a tool, an automation tool that submits requests to any website in batch, saving the results and compiling them into data objects and reports. Why would you want to use this? Because it's efficient, produces time savings. In addition, it's effective. It eliminates human error. A good use case would be related to scalability. If you consider Company A has many partners, each partner has a web portal, but no formal API to submit requests, being orders or tickets to. Company A also has many employees. Each employee has to submit many orders and tickets to each of the partners' portals. As the number of partners, employees, and requests being orders and tickets increase, Company A is forced to spend more time managing the process versus performing other value-added activities. This tool eliminates this issue, putting Company A in a position to nip problems in the bud because the tool has changed the dynamic of having to request information versus being able to receive and consume it, rather than have to respond and react from unknowns. You're much more proactive in being able to deal with situations. Now, where can this be installed? It can be installed on Windows and Macintosh. The user interface is right here, is in Silverlight, or it can be deployed or implemented as a console application, being that the former and latter, there's an operator or not an operator, so you can schedule this and let it run if any time that you want. So that covers when. So you can run it after hours and run this tool to grab your web requests, process the information, update your back-end systems, or create additional reports whenever you want. And how was this created? Well, the project management style was an agile project. There were features that were created and implemented in sprints. The code was originally created in Visual Studio 2010 using C# and was refactored to use Silverlight, which is a much more lightweight language but could be deployed out to different operating systems and installed out of the box. It was also unit tested with NUnit. Design patterns included an asynchronous pattern. Since the Silverlight uses async requests, basically I was forced to be able to create this with a asynchronous nature versus synchronous nature. However, the code still processes each request and response in order as if it were synchronous. So if I have 10 transactions, it will still be processed in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as I'd specified. In addition, it uses a prototype pattern in the design. And the prototype pattern basically is a result of a request that may yield a response that contains data that the code senses and dynamically triggers the creation of other requests in the batch, cloning them to do so. So for instance, if I submit a request to a web page and it contains a table, and that table contains a listing of about another 10 different links, it could be any number, the code will actually process a predefined pattern, being able to create and clone different requests in as a result of that. So if I get to a table and has 10 other links, it'll be able to generate another 10 transactions and submit them and grab the responses accordingly. In addition, this code was loosely coupled. Basically, there's two main operations: requesting data and processing the data. Requesting the data can be, again, this can be used on any website and can be configured using XML configuration files that can be saved before and after the submission. Saving it before the submission allows you to pre-configure your batches to request this information, whereas on the other hand, saving the results allows you to analyze information ad hoc. So if you want to actually create another report, which is the next feature, then you're able to take historical data from these config files and reprocess it. Leading up to that was the processing the data. The data can be modeled in any fashion using information from the request, response, as well as anything that you manually predefined in the config file. In addition, the output can be an object that you can interact with, or it can be serialized as XML or outputted to delimited files. This is important because in this case we're going to be actually interacting with the class objects once they're compiled. However, if you're going to run it in a hands-off approach, you may output it to XML or a delimited file, which can be imported into your back-end relational database, and which will really help with your capacity metrics. Being that, again, if you come back to that use case of you have a 0 to n employees, 0 to n partners, and 0 to n orders, with all of them having to submit and manage that process, this tool could do all of it and automate it and update all of your back-end information systems, allowing you to rely on what actually happened versus having a human tell you what they think may have happened. Lastly, there is some data validation, which is also performed through the XML config file, which enables the user to report when a particular field is null, it doesn't have match a pattern or a range of characters. So if you're saying that, look, this web page is supposed to contain this piece of information and it's not required, then it will spit it out in a error report. In addition, if that piece of information is supposed to be a range of characters between 10 and 150, if it doesn't match that, it will also log it as an error. Lastly, if it doesn't match a pattern such as an email address, being that it doesn't contain an @ symbol or a period, then it can also spit it out to an error file, so that you're in control of managing how the data comes out. Lastly, this user interface was created in Silverlight, and it's very, very simple. I took the opportunity to create a clean-looking UI that is both functional as well as pleasing to work with. And basically what's going to happen is I'm going to enter information here, and then I'm going to click Run. When I click Run, these two computers, which symbolize my computer as well as the responding server, are going to interact with one another. The monitor is going to turn green when it starts to process the request, and this monitor is going to turn green when it's starting to respond to the request. These two wires in between signify the information being transferred over the wire. When this turns green, this computer is sending information over. When this turns green, it's sending information back to me to be able to be processed. Here there's a progress bar down the bottom. You'll see a count of the transactions as they proceed, in addition to a description of which one it is on. Once it's actually finished processing all the requests and responses, it's going to toggle over to the results window, which we're going to be able to interact with the class objects that I'd mentioned earlier. So let's get started here. I'm going to copy and paste some information that I have here, and what this website does is it tells me if these names have been already trademarked or not, and it tells me how many times they come up in the search of being trademarked. So rather than have me go into this website and look up each one manually, I'm going to just pop in these names here, click Run. It's going to go to the website, log in, and search for all of these different names, compile a report, and spit it back to me that I can analyze. So here we go. Click Run. There's 25 transactions. You can see it goes pretty fast, and my computer's humming away, and it's just responding back. So here's my request here when it turns green, and it's starting to submit the information over the wire when the wire starts to turn green. As you can see, it's going back and forth of the different requests and responses. I'm at 17 now. Here's the progress bar increasing as well, and we're getting closer and closer. Now you'll notice that log in and log out, that's a implementation of this, a requirement of this implementation, which I had to put in there, but basically enables me to ensure that I'm getting all the requests and responses that I have specified here. And I'm submitting my last transaction, and it was for Street Fighter. Those who have known me growing up, I had played quite a lot of video games and used that for an example. So if we take a look at the output here, we're going to see here was the ID of the request, here were the different names that correspond back to here, and it gives me back the count, which is going to be based upon the HTML page that I had requested. And if you want to be able to validate it or inspect it, you can actually click here, and it's going to tell you that we couldn't find it. And if you click onto the next transaction, you'll see that respective response loaded into the controls saying here's what came back from Microsoft, only 2 records. Here's what came back from Microsoft, Apple. And you can see here's the search terms, everything lines up accordingly. Mass Effect, the number of records, 11,166. So you can see what's ended up happening is when I request this web page and then I get back this response, I'm actually aggregating all of it and then I'm parsing it saying that for this search I want to be able to retrieve the name as well as the number of records and put it into a report. And what you could end up doing with this is outputting this report and again either creating another report, updating your back-end databases with it, analyzing the information for capacity planning. So if you're going to say, hey look, I wanted to be able to search 1 to 1 million orders, it would go out, list the order, list the status. You could take this, it could be exported. This whole process is can be hands-off, automated if you'd like. Takes that data, updates your back-end systems. You know exactly how your company is running without having to have any of your users interact with it. And that concludes my demonstration. I hope you enjoyed it and I appreciate your time. Thank you.